A team of cryptographers at Tulane just stared at a screen in total disbelief. For decades, the Axeman's letter was a novelty, a piece of circus sideshow horror.
They have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit.
But the AI they were running, Project Satchmo, just flagged it. It found patterns hidden in the ink, patterns that weren't random. This wasn't the rambling of a lunatic, it was a code. This single discovery rewrites the entire history of the Axeman of New Orleans. He wasn't a lone phantom, he wasn't a demon, and the infamous Jazz Demand, that was the most terrifying con of all. A pattern in the carnage. To understand the panic, you have to picture New Orleans in 1918. This wasn't the party town we know today. This was a gritty, humid, and deeply divided port city. World War I was just grinding to a bloody halt, and soldiers were returning home. But the real enemy was invisible. The Spanish flu pandemic was sweeping the globe, and it was devastating the city's poorest neighborhoods. People were literally dropping in the streets. There was a constant smell of smoke and disinfectant in the air. Fear was a flavor you could taste. And into this humid, tense, and grief-stricken city, a new sound was being born. Jazz. It was loud, it was chaotic, it was revolutionary. It was the sound of a new generation, and the city's old guard hated it. So here's the deal. The city was already a pressure cooker, and on the morning of May 23, 1918, someone decided to turn up the heat. Joseph Maggio and his wife Catherine were Italian grocers. This was the American dream for immigrants. They lived in a small, humble apartment right next to their shop in the Upper Ninth Ward. They were known as quiet, hardworking people. On that May morning, Joseph's brothers, Jake and Andrew, showed up for work. The shop was closed, which was strange. They went to the apartment door. It was locked. They knocked. No answer, but then they heard it. A faint, low groan. They panicked. Andrew, the younger brother, ran to the side of the apartment and squeezed through a small gap, forcing his way in. The scene he walked into was something from a nightmare. The bedroom was covered in a thick, dark spray. It was on the walls, the ceiling, the furniture. Catherine Maggio was on the bed, her throat cut so deeply she was almost decapitated. The mattress was soaked through. Joseph was on the floor, still barely alive, his skull fractured from multiple vicious blows. The brothers grabbed Joseph and carried him out, screaming for help, but it was too late. He perished just minutes later. The police, led by Detective Peter Genty, arrived and were instantly baffled. This wasn't a robbery. The crazy part is, money was still in the cash register in the shop. Valuable jewelry was sitting on Catherine's nightstand completely untouched. There was no sign of a struggle. The couple had, by all accounts, been attacked in their sleep. The weapon was found in the bathroom, a bloody axe. But it wasn't the attackers, it was Joseph Maggio's own axe from his own woodshed. And then they found the entry point. The attacker hadn't bothered with the locks. He'd gone to the back door, taken a chisel, and carved out an entire lower panel. He had simply created his own door, crawled through, and then committed the brutal act. This one detail was a massive wow factor. It wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was a planned, cold, and personal execution. The act of chiseling the door was loud. It took time. The attacker was so confident, so brazen that he did it anyway. The city was horrified, but the police, steeped in the prejudices of the day, wrote it off. It's the Italians, they said. They assumed it was a mafia feud, a vendetta. They didn't investigate. They just figured the problem had solved itself. They were dead wrong. Just 1 month later, on June 27th, it happened again. Louis Bessumer, another grocer, and his partner Harriet Lowe were attacked in their apartment, again connected to their shop. The scene was almost identical. They were attacked in their sleep. The weapon was a hatchet left at the scene belonging to Bessumer. And the point of entry? A chiseled-out panel on the back door. This time, the victim survived, barely. Harriet Lowe, covered in her own blood, managed to crawl to the door and get help. When the police asked her who did it, she could only mumble, "A tall, dark man, he came in with an axe." Now the city was in a full-blown panic. This wasn't a feud, this was a monster. The Axeman was born. The attacks kept coming, each one more bizarre and brutal. In August, a woman named Anna Schneider, 8 months pregnant, woke up to see a dark figure standing over her. She was viciously attacked and her face was mutilated, but she and her baby miraculously survived. She too described a tall, dark phantom. Then, in March of 1919, the Cordemelia family. Charles, his wife Rosie, and their 2-year-old daughter Mary. They ran, you guessed it, a grocery store. A neighbor heard screaming and ran over. The scene was the worst one yet. Rosie was on the floor clutching her small daughter who had been struck in the head. Charles was on the ground, bleeding from massive gashes. The weapon? An axe from their own backyard. The entry? A chiseled back door panel. The entire city was losing its mind. People barricaded their doors. They put new heavy locks on their windows. Sales of shotguns went through the roof. Men formed neighborhood watch groups, sitting on their porches all night, waiting. The police were helpless. They had no leads, no motives, no suspects. They rounded up hundreds of people, but they were all dead ends. The Axeman was a ghost. He could get through any lock. He left no fingerprints. He took no money. He only left carnage. Wild theories started to fly. Was this a voodoo practitioner? Some people reported finding strange chalk symbols, waves, drawn on the sidewalks near the attack sites. Was this a warning? What most people don't realize is that this anti-Italian bias actually helped the attacker. The police were so convinced it was Italians dealing with Italians that they failed to see the bigger picture. They were looking for a motive in a community they didn't understand while the attacker was preparing his next move. He was growing bolder. He was tired of just doing the work. He wanted the credit. And that's when he decided to write a letter. A city held hostage by music. The Axeman had the city in a chokehold. He was a phantom, a boogeyman, a supernatural force that could chisel his way into your home and your nightmares. The police were stumped. The public was terrified. And the Axeman, it turns out, was loving every second of it. He was, in fact, an egomaniac. And on March 13, 1919, he decided to make his grand theatrical debut. A letter arrived at the offices of the Times-Picayune newspaper. It wasn't the first letter claiming to be from the attacker. The police had received dozens of fakes from cranks. But this one felt different. The postmark was simple and it sent a chill down the editor's spine. Hell. The letter was addressed to the esteemed mortals of New Orleans. The tone was arrogant, mocking, and dripping with a kind of over-the-top theatrical evil. It was a masterpiece of psychological terror. The author claimed, point blank, "I am not a human being. I am a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell." He taunted the police, calling them foolish and asinine. He bragged that he could glide through the thickest of walls and that the police would never catch him. He claimed he was a close companion of the angel of death and that he was just doing his job. He wrote, "I am very fond of the music of the groans of my victims. I am a man of leisure." This was a wow factor that sent the city into a new kind of panic. Before, they were afraid of a madman. Now they were being told to fear a demon. And then came the part that would be remembered for over 100 years. The demand. The demon wrote that he had a proposition. He announced that on the following Tuesday night, March 19th, at exactly 12:15 in the morning, he would pass over the city looking for his next victims. And he wrote, "I am very fond of jazz music." This was the twist no one saw coming.